Title: Love Me As I Am. The city streets were alive with noise as Mia wove her way through the crowd. She had just finished teaching her self-defense class in the park, her muscles still humming with energy. Her students adored her. She was tough but kind, teaching them how to protect themselves while reminding them to find strength in their own way. Today had been no different, but something unusual caught her attention. A man on the edge of the training ground, silently observing her. His presence wasn't immediately unsettling, but there was something about the way he watched her that made Mia pause. He was tall, dressed casually in a dark jacket, his hands tucked into his pockets as he stood just outside the circle of students. His eyes, however, were focused entirely on her, following every movement with an intensity that was hard to ignore. After wrapping up the class and sending her students off with a wave, Mia walked toward him, her curiosity piqued. The man didn't move, waiting for her to approach, but he seemed more relaxed now, almost as if he had expected her to come over. "Did you enjoy the show?" Mia asked, raising an eyebrow. He chuckled softly, pulling one hand out of his pocket to reveal a camera. "I'm not sure 'show' is the right word. I'm Alex, by the way. I'm a photographer. I couldn't help but notice the way you move. It's captivating." Mia crossed her arms, sizing him up. "So, you just take pictures of random people in the park?" Alex smiled, lifting his camera slightly. "Only when I see something worth capturing. Your movements, they're powerful but graceful. It's rare to see that kind of control." Mia relaxed a little. She had dealt with all sorts of people, some far more intrusive than Alex seemed to be. "I'm Mia, and yeah, I guess it's about control. Martial arts is more than just fighting. It's discipline. You get what you put into it." He nodded thoughtfully, glancing back at the space where her students had been practicing. "Do you teach often?" "Yeah, a few times a week. It's a side thing, though. I want to open my own school one day, something bigger. Not just self-defense, but a place where kids can learn, build confidence." There was a brief pause before Alex spoke again, his voice softer this time. "That's a good dream." Mia studied him for a moment, curious. There was something deeper in his eyes, something familiar but distant. "And you? What do you do, besides photographing strangers?" Alex chuckled again, though this time it carried a hint of something heavier. "I used to photograph conflict zones, war, violence. Now I'm trying to focus on things that aren't as dark." Mia's eyes flickered with understanding. She knew that weight, the burden of carrying something from your past that never quite let go. "Must have been rough." "It was," Alex said simply. "But enough about me. I'd love to photograph one of your sessions, if that's okay. No pressure. I just think people should see what you do." Mia smiled, feeling something stir inside her. She had never liked being the center of attention, but there was something genuine in Alex's offer, something that felt right. "Sure, why not? Just don't get in the way, okay?" He grinned, and for the first time since they'd started talking, Mia noticed how warm his smile was. "I wouldn't dream of it." As they exchanged numbers and said their goodbyes, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time she'd see Alex. There was something about him that lingered, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. And as she walked away, her heart still humming with the energy of the day, she couldn't help but wonder what their next encounter would bring. Mia first noticed him when he pulled out a camera, snapping photos of her movements. He had a quiet intensity about him, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he framed each shot. When their eyes finally met, he gave a small smile, lowering his camera as if caught in the act. "Are you getting good pictures?" she asked, approaching him with a teasing tone. The man straightened up, looking a little embarrassed but intrigued. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said. "I'm Alex, a photographer. You're incredible. The way you move, it's like you're dancing." Mia couldn't help but smile. "Martial arts is kind of like that, isn't it? But I'm no dancer." Alex glanced at the students packing up their gear. "You could have fooled me." Their conversation flowed easily after that. They walked through the park, sharing stories of their lives. Mia told him about her dream of opening a dance school for underprivileged kids, a place where they could learn discipline and express themselves. Alex opened up about his time as a war photographer, how capturing beauty in the middle of destruction had made him question the world and himself. Yet, for the first time in a while, something or someone seemed to stir hope in him. Days turned into weeks, and Atusio spent more time together. Mia grew fond of Alex's quiet strength and how his camera seemed to capture her essence in ways words couldn't. For Alex, Mia was a whirlwind of energy and passion. Unstoppable, fierce, yet compassionate. Their connection was magnetic, pulling them closer with each passing day. As their bond deepened, Mia and Alex found themselves drawn into each other's worlds in ways neither had expected. Mia, who had always guarded her emotions behind a wall of discipline and strength, found herself slowly lowering her defenses around Alex. His quiet, observant nature soothed her, and she marveled at how he could capture the subtle moments in her life, moments she never thought anyone else noticed. One afternoon, they sat in a small cafe after her class, Mia still glowing from the workout. Alex, as usual, had his camera resting on the table, occasionally snapping candid shots of her between sips of coffee. She laughed when she caught him photographing her mid-sentence. "You're always doing that," she teased. "One day, I'm going to take that camera from you and see what it's like from the other side." Alex smirked, lowering the camera to meet her gaze. "You'd be surprised what the world looks like through a lens. Sometimes, it shows you things you didn't even know were there." Mia paused, stirred by his words. There was always something about Alex. He saw the world differently, saw her differently. It wasn't just her strength he admired. He saw the vulnerability beneath it, the quiet determination, the moments when she doubted herself. And somehow, he made her feel understood in ways she hadn't experienced before. "You make it sound like magic," Mia said, leaning back in her chair. "But I guess that's what you do. Find beauty where most people would overlook it." Alex's smile softened. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just about finding the truth in things. Like you. You're all fire and strength on the outside, but there's more to you than that. I can see it every time I look at you." Mia felt a warm flush rise to her cheeks. But before she could respond, Alex's phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening slightly before he silenced the call. "Everything okay?" Mia asked, sensing a shift. Alex hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just work stuff." But there was something in his tone that told Mia otherwise. She knew he had been trying to leave his past behind, but the shadows of his old life, the war zones, the violence, still haunted him. She reached across the table, placing her hand on his. "You don't have to carry it alone, you know," she said gently. "Whatever it is, I'm here." Alex looked at her, his eyes full of something raw and unspoken. For a moment, it seemed like he might tell her everything, but then he closed his eyes and smiled softly. "I know. Thank you, Mia." The tenderness between them was undeniable, but so was the weight of the things left unsaid. As much as Mia wanted to know more about his past, she respected his silence. After all, she had her own secrets, ones she wasn't quite ready to share either. But as their connection deepened, so did the complexity of their relationship. What began as a simple attraction was growing into something far more profound, and with that growth came the fear of what might happen if they fully opened up to each other. Mia's thoughts were interrupted one evening when her phone rang. The voice on the other end was sharp and familiar. Kai, her old rival. "Mia," he said, his tone dripping with mock friendliness. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" Her body tensed immediately at the sound of his voice. She hadn't heard from Kai in years, not since the day she beat him in the championship. "What do you want, Kai?" she asked, her voice steady, despite the unease building in her chest. "Oh, nothing much," he said with a dark chuckle. "Just a rematch. You owe me that, don't you?" "I don't owe you anything," Mia snapped, her hand gripping the phone tighter. "But you see, Mia," Kai continued, his voice hardening, "you've got something I want, and I'm going to take it from you, one way or another." Mia's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the surge of adrenaline that always came when facing a threat. She had left her rivalry with Kai behind, but clearly he hadn't. "You're wasting your time, Kai," she said. "I'm not interested." "We'll see about that," he replied, before the line went dead. Mia stared at her phone, her mind racing. She had no intention of getting dragged back into Kai's world, but something told her he wasn't going to give her a choice. That night, as she lay beside Alex, she felt the tension in her body rising again. There was so much she still hadn't told him about her past, about the enemies she had made in the world of martial arts. But as she watched him sleep, peaceful and unaware, she couldn't bring herself to disturb the fragile serenity they had built together. But deep down, she knew the peace wouldn't last. Kai was coming, and sooner or later, she'd have to face him. What scared her more was how Alex would react when he found out about the danger that now hung over them both. But just as their love blossomed, the shadows of Mia's past resurfaced. Kai, an old rival from her martial arts days, reappeared. He had never forgiven Mia for beating him in a championship years ago, and his defeat had festered into resentment. Now, he wanted revenge, and he wouldn't stop until he had it. One evening, Kai cornered Mia at the gym, taunting her with the same arrogance he'd had back then. "You think you're untouchable, don't you?" he sneered. "How about we settle this once and for all? Underground tournament, no rules. Let's see who the real champion is." Mia clenched her fists. She had nothing to prove to Kai, but she knew he wouldn't leave her alone. And part of her, the part that had always sought to challenge herself, was drawn to the idea. Still, she hesitated, not wanting to drag Alex into this. Mia stared at the phone, her mind spinning with conflicting emotions. She had faced tougher opponents than Kai in the past, but this was different. She wasn't the same person who lived for the thrill of competition anymore. She had Alex now, someone who had unknowingly become her anchor, and she didn't want to risk losing the peace they had built together. But as much as she hated to admit it, the fire inside her, the one that never backed down from a challenge, was already stirring. It wasn't just about Kai anymore. It was about proving to herself that she could still rise above the darkness of her past. That evening, Mia sat in her apartment, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. Alex, sensing her distance, finally spoke up as they ate dinner together. "You've been quiet," he said, studying her carefully. "Is everything okay?" Mia paused, the fork hovering above her plate, before finally setting it down. She didn't want to lie, but the truth was complicated. "I got a call today," she began, her voice measured, "from someone I used to know." Kai. The name lingered in the air, unfamiliar to Alex, but heavy with meaning for Mia. "Kai?" Alex asked, leaning in. "Who is he?" Mia sighed, running a hand through her hair. "An old rival from my martial arts days. We've had history, and now he wants a rematch." Alex's eyes narrowed, his concern clear. "A rematch? Why now?" "Because he never let go of his loss," Mia replied. "And now, for whatever reason, he's decided to drag me back into it. He's always been obsessed with proving he's better than me." "Do you want to fight him?" Alex asked, his voice careful but firm. Mia hesitated. Not really. But I know him, Alex. He won't let this go. He's not the type to take no for an answer." A long silence stretched between them. Alex's gaze softened, but Mia could see the worry behind his eyes. She didn't want him to feel like he had to protect her, but she could sense the conflict rising in him. "You don't have to do this, Mia," Alex said quietly. "You've already proven yourself, haven't you?" Mia's jaw clenched. She wanted to agree with him, but a part of her, deep down, didn't believe it. The fighter in her, the one who thrived on testing her limits, was gnawing at her resolve. She didn't want to run from this. "It's not that simple," she finally said. "It's not about proving anything to Kai. It's about finishing what he started." Alex's hand reached across the table, resting on hers. "I trust you, Mia, but just know, I'll be with you, no matter what you decide." His words sent a wave of warmth through her, but they also brought a pang of guilt. She didn't want to pull Alex into the chaos that was bound to follow. He had already lived through enough darkness in his own past. She wasn't sure if she could forgive herself if something happened to him because of her choices. Still, the decision had been made, even if she hadn't fully accepted it yet. Kai wasn't going to back down, and neither would she. 2 nights later, Mia found herself in a dimly lit underground fight club. The air was thick with tension and anticipation, the crowd buzzing with excitement as they waited for the main event, Mia versus Kai. She had told Alex not to come, but she knew he was somewhere in the crowd, watching her, silently supporting her. Kai stood across the ring, his eyes gleaming with arrogant confidence. He had always been a skilled fighter, but his ego often clouded his judgment. He smirked at Mia, taunting her with a mock salute. "You finally showed up," Kai said as he approached her, his voice dripping with condescension. "I was starting to think you'd lost your edge." Mia's expression remained calm, her body loose but ready. "You've always talked too much, Kai. Let's get this over with." The referee stepped between them, going over the basic rules, though in this place, rules barely mattered. This wasn't an official tournament. It was brutal, no-holds-barred combat. The bell rang, and Mia and Kai squared off, circling each other like predators, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Kai moved first, launching a series of rapid kicks and punches, each one powerful and calculated. But Mia was faster, ducking and weaving, her movements smooth and controlled. The fight was intense, a brutal exchange of blows that tested every ounce of Mia's strength and skill. Kai was relentless, pushing her harder than any opponent she'd faced in years, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her struggle. As they clashed again, Mia saw her opening. Kai, in his arrogance, left his guard down for just a second too long. Mia seized the moment, delivering a precise, devastating blow to his ribs, followed by a sweeping kick that sent him crashing to the ground. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Mia barely heard them. Her focus was on Kai, who was gasping for breath, struggling to get up. She could have finished him right there, but she didn't. The fight was over. She had already won. Kai glared up at her, fury and defeat mixing in his eyes. "This isn't over," he spat. Mia stepped back, breathing hard but steady. "It is for me." As she turned to leave the ring, the crowd parting for her, she caught sight of Alex standing at the edge, his camera hanging from his neck. He didn't need to say anything. The pride and relief in his eyes were enough. Walking toward him, Mia felt the weight of the fight lift her from her shoulders. She had faced her past, but it was her future, with Alex, that mattered now. Without a word, he pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "I knew you could do it," he whispered. Mia smiled, her heart still racing but full of peace. "I had to, for both of us." As they walked out of the club together, hand in hand, Mia knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. When she told Alex about Kai's challenge, she expected him to be angry or try to talk her out of it. Instead, he looked at her with unwavering support. "I know you can handle yourself," he said, "but promise me you'll be careful. I'll be there, right by your side." The night of the tournament was electric, the underground arena buzzing with tension and excitement. Alex watched from the sidelines, his camera capturing every flicker of emotion, every bead of sweat. Mia moved with precision and grace, her skills sharp, honed by years of training. When she finally faced Kai, the crowd fell silent. The fight was brutal. Kai fought with the fury of someone who had nothing left to lose, but Mia's determination was stronger. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everything she believed in, for the future she wanted to build. With a final, well-placed strike, Mia knocked Kai to the ground. The crowd erupted into cheers, but all Mia could hear was her own heartbeat and the sight of Alex standing there with his camera, smiling at her like she was the only person in the world. Afterward, as they walked through the empty streets, Alex wrapped his arm around Mia's shoulders. "I've never seen anything like that," he said softly. "You were incredible." Mia smiled, her body aching but her heart full. "I had a lot to fight for," she said, leaning into him. "You helped me remember that." Months later, Mia's dream became a reality. The dance school opened its doors, welcoming children from all walks of life. And Alex's photography? His shots of the tournament had become part of an exhibition that not only celebrated Mia's victory, but also raised awareness and funds for the school. On the night of the exhibition's grand opening, Mia and Alex stood together, hand in hand, surrounded by their shared success. As the music played softly in the background, Mia turned to Alex with a smile. "Thank you for loving me as I am," she whispered. Alex pulled her close, his voice full of quiet conviction. "There's no other way to love you." And in that moment, Mia knew that no matter what challenges came their way, they would face them together, stronger than ever.
The Stories book is a captivating collection of tales that traverse diverse genres and emotions, spanning the realms of fantasy, science fiction, romance, and mystery. Each narrative is a journey into the unexpected, weaving intricate plots and compelling characters. With a skillful blend of vivid imagery and thought-provoking themes, this anthology invites readers to explore the depths of imagination and discover the universal threads that connect us all. From heartwarming moments to spine. We hope you enjoyed these captivating video stories. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content like this. Thanks for watching and keep spreading the video story.